Hey newlies, welcome to Forever Newlywed. My name is Kenya Nunez, and today we are talking about getting ready for the holidays now that you are married. So now that you're married, who do you spend the holidays with? Do you spend it with your spouse's family? Do you spend it with your family? Do you alternate? Do you figure out a way for everybody to come together at one time? This can be a very stressful decision to make. So my husband and I, for example, our families live on two ends of the country. So we decided that we will alternate major holidays. So what about you? What if your families are of a different faith? What if your parents are divorced? What if you guys have a blended family? What if your parents don't even get along? What if your spouse's family doesn't like you and your family doesn't like them? There are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to getting ready for the holidays. What about if you guys have children? Do children influence how you celebrate the holidays? I can imagine that can determine whether you go away for the holidays or whether you have to stay home. Or if the grandparents want to have the kids this holiday and then the next holiday they don't want to be bothered. These are things that you have to begin to consider. Well, in the planning process, sometimes you just have to sit and figure out what it is that you want to do. Maybe when you were younger, there were things that you wish you had done, but you couldn't. Maybe you couldn't afford it. Maybe it wasn't something that your family did. But now that you're married, you and your spouse want to decide that there are some things that you guys want to do, or some blended ways that he grew up and you want to take those on, and vice versa. So here are 7 things to consider when planning your holiday as a married couple. Number 1, be honest. Communicate what your thoughts are, but be willing to compromise. You and your spouse, you might have vastly different ideas of what the holidays look like. I suggest you make a list of what really matters to you most. Evaluate your values. What is it that is most important to you? For my husband and I, we're both Christians. We're followers of Christ. And so our Christmases are centered around that aspect of our faith. Now, do we do the Christmas tree, gifts, and things like that? Yes, we do. But we know some people who don't do as much on purpose. So you have to talk about those things, because what you don't want is for you to be assuming that, yeah, we're going to do all these gifts. Everybody gets a gift. Because that's when we come together with my family, everybody has something for someone. Or we do Secret Santa, but he don't believe in Santa and he thinks that only select people should have gifts. Those are things that you don't want to run into during the holiday season. So you really want to evaluate those values. Same thing for Thanksgiving. Maybe your family was small and so you guys did a small event for Thanksgiving, if you celebrated it together at all. But maybe his family is like, yeah, everybody come together, come to my house, my wife's gonna cook, and you looking at him like, for real though? I'm not cooking. Those are things that you want to make sure that you talk about. If there is something you are not comfortable participating in, or maybe there's something you're not comfortable cooking, or there's something you're not comfortable eating, that is what you want to communicate with your spouse. Because some cultures, certain meals are like customary. And if you don't eat the ham or you don't eat the turkey, his family or your family, they're gonna be looking at each of y'all crazy. So you want to make sure that those things, you kind of forewarn each other about certain things. Also, when it comes to where you guys are gonna be, you might say, I'll go, but we're not staying with your mom. We're gonna stay at a hotel. If you communicate that when the mom is looking for y'all to stay with her, you and your spouse are on the same page. You don't have to worry about arguing with anybody because it's set in stone. You're not gonna get talked out of it, and that's that. These are the kind of things you wanna make sure you communicate. You also don't wanna just communicate between you and your spouse. Maybe you need to communicate with the in-laws, because maybe they are housing you guys, or maybe they're the one who's cooking, and you need to communicate with your in-law that you're bringing the sweet potato pie, or you're not bringing the sweet potato pie. You just wanna avoid any kind of drama around the holidays, and communication can really make sure that that happens. Number 2, the budget. The money. You have to talk about what the budget is for what you're going to do. Like I said, me and my husband alternate where we go for the bigger holidays. So we need a budget. How much is the plane tickets? Let's make sure we get the plane tickets in April and not in December because we're going to Texas for Christmas. You have to talk about the money because money, as we know, can be a huge stressor in the marriage. Because we all know most people procrastinate, and that's why they hike the tickets up at the airport and at the airline, because they know that 50% of everybody, 70%, whatever, have procrastinated to get those tickets. So they're gonna capitalize on it. We're not putting money into somebody else's pocket because we didn't do our budget. Amen? All right. Number 3, plan it way in advance. Now this kind of ties into communication and budget, but there's some things I will talk about that are a little different. Because when you plan way in advance, you could communicate with families as soon as possible to avoid hurting feelings. This is something that once you get into a habit and your family knows, his family knows, okay, we're alternating. So if you saw us here for Thanksgiving, don't expect to see us at Thanksgiving again this year. You're gonna see us at Christmas. And some families, because one holiday may be more important than the other, you just wanna make sure that you communicate in advance, like, okay, remember, this is what we're gonna do this year, because you don't want anybody to feel slighted. Alternating whose family you spend time with for the holidays can be seamless, but you just want to make sure that everybody understands, what's happening. So the more you know about each other's families, you can avoid certain drama, certain complications that don't even need to be a thing. Cool? Number 4, offer to host. Now this is not an idea. Please know yourself. If you are not the hosting type, please don't offer to host. Please don't offer to have people over to your house and you're gonna be angry and mad and just ornery. Think about this one before you actually commit to it. So the first year that we had Thanksgiving at the home that we're in now, it wasn't chaotic, but we just had something major happen in the family. So it was a great opportunity for everyone to come together and show support and show love. But I vowed after that Thanksgiving that I probably was not gonna host for a good long while. I needed at least 3 years to recover because it just was a lot. You had to clean, you had to make sure there was enough food, you had to make sure that people who said they were gonna bring food, that they actually brought the food. So it just was a lot to manage. So if you're gonna host, please make sure that you plan that and that you manage it well. And if you're not the hosting type, don't feel guilty, don't feel bad. Somebody else will host. You can go to a friend's house, you can go to another family member's house, but give yourself a break if you need to, okay? And then also, maybe you hosting gives somebody else a break. Maybe you guys do go to your grandparents' house every Thanksgiving, but grandma tired of cooking. So it's time for you to give grandma a break, and maybe you host Thanksgiving this year and make it a potluck. So you're not responsible for all the food, but you make sure that it's managed in some way. Number 5. Now this one is new. Celebrate virtually. After COVID, this was something that a lot of families turned to because we really weren't able to see each other face to face. But I found that some families decided to carry this kind of tradition on because maybe it did work. Maybe you aren't able to alternate, going a very far distance. Maybe your family is overseas and you want to still be able to see them. You want the kids to see each other. You still want there to be different things you can do. Get the kids involved. Kids make everything more fun, especially around the holidays, because they're just excited about everything. So if you have to use this as an option for celebrating the holidays, try it, see what it's like. Maybe it's hybrid, where most of the family could get together, but there's a few family members who just couldn't make it for one reason or the other. We'll patch them in virtually so they can still feel a part. Number 6, create a new tradition. So this is something that, especially when you're coming together in marriage, you might like some things from your husband's traditions, you might like some things from your own traditions, and then maybe you don't like none of what you did growing up. Maybe you just felt like your childhood was horrid and you hated everything about the holidays, but now that you and your spouse are together, you want to make it something of your own. This is definitely an option. You guys, you can decide what it is that you want it to look like. Maybe you don't want to celebrate for just one day. You want to make it a week-long event. I know for Christmas, I've seen people do 12 days of Christmas, where every day leading up until Christmas, it was something new. They did something fun, or they gave each other a specific kind of gift. And I thought that that was so creative and so much fun. So don't be afraid to create a new tradition. Bringing two upbringings together and deciding what you want to incorporate, it can cause some friction, but it doesn't have to. Some people don't want their kids to know about Santa. Some people want to incorporate Kwanzaa into the way that they raise their children. There are a lot of different things that society has said, this is what we do and this is what you should do. But maybe you don't want to do that. And maybe you don't think that that's what you and your family are going to do. It's fine. Create your own thing. And the last step or point that I have when you're coming together as a married couple and you want to celebrate the holidays, and this is not exactly one that I would do, but it's one that I've heard of, is celebrate the holidays separately. I've heard that sometimes when there's disagreements in the family, sometimes when you and your spouse can't quite figure out what's best to do and you don't want anyone to feel slighted, what you can do is you spend your holidays with your family and he spends the holidays with his family. There is something about the holidays that kind of softens people up sometimes, and it gives them a chance to get to know you more. It gives them a chance to relax around you, get some food in front of everybody. That's a great opportunity for people to come together. And so if you are going to celebrate the holidays separately, again, make sure you guys are on the same page about that. You don't want it to be where when he's with his family bad-mouthing you, and that's their opportunity to tell him what they really think about you. Don't allow the separation in the holidays to bring division between you and your spouse. If that's what you guys decide to do, you feel like that's what's best for you and your marriage and your family, make sure that you're both on the same page about it, that you secretly disagree, but because you want to make your spouse happy, you go with it. Make sure you guys are fully communicative about that particular step. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me for this video. I hope you found it fun, informative, maybe gave you a few different ideas. Maybe it helps you to get ahead of the holiday season that's coming up. Let me know in the comments, because I'm curious, what method do you and your spouse use when it comes to spending time with each other's families during the holidays? Is it very traditional and you want to keep those traditions from generation to generation? Because that's another thing. Some families have generational traditions that they have, but what if your spouse is like not with it? I would really love to hear your perspective, and I'm sure everyone else will want to know, and it might help them get ready for the holiday season. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll catch you next time right here on Forever Newlywed.